Chris Tapp spent 20 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. Angie Dodge was 18 years old when she was brutally murdered in her own bedroom. DNA was left behind. But the real killer? Well, he lived across the street the entire time. And just when Chris finally walked free, his story took one final tragic turn. June 13th, 1996, Idaho Falls, Idaho. Two co-workers stopped by Angie Dodge's apartment. She hadn't shown up to work, and her mom had been calling the salon all morning. The front door is unlocked. Inside, they find a quiet apartment, a few red party cups, an ashtray with cigarettes. Then they reach the back bedroom. Angie is lying on the floor, blood everywhere, her head resting against the wall. She had been raped and stabbed 14 times. It was a horrific scene. No forced entry. Whoever did this was someone she probably knew. Police arrive at 11 a.m. The community is stunned. Murders like this don't happen in Idaho Falls. Not in 1996. Not to girls like Angie. The police are under pressure. The town wants answers. So they start rounding up suspects. 7 months later, they focus on a local teen named Benjamin Hobbs. He'd just been arrested in Nevada for raping a woman at knife point. The similarities are impossible to ignore. Hobbs had been part of a friend group known as the River Rats. His closest friend? Christopher Tapp. Police bring Chris in, hoping he'll talk, and he does. He trusts them. He believes they're trying to help, but they're not. Over 100 hours of interrogation, 7 polygraph tests, no lawyer present, and slowly, Chris breaks down. At first, he denies everything. Then he says maybe he was there. Then he says Hobbs did it. Then he says maybe he helped. The story keeps changing. But one thing doesn't, the DNA. It doesn't match Chris, or Hobbs, or anyone they name. Still, the police build their case around his taped confessions. In 1998, Chris Tapp is convicted of rape and murder, sentenced to life in prison. Angie's mother, Carol Dodge, wants him to get the death penalty. But in the years to come, she'll become his greatest ally. Carol Dodge never stopped searching for the truth. The DNA didn't match. She knew something wasn't right. In 2014, she teams up with a forensic expert and pushes for something new, familial DNA testing. It's the same technology that caught the Golden State Killer. And in Angie's case, it leads to a man named Brian Dripp. In 1996, he lived across the street from Angie Dodge. Police collect his DNA from a cigarette tossed out a car window. It's a full match. Dripp confesses. He'd seen Angie move in 3 weeks earlier. He'd watched her, waited for her friends to leave, then he crossed the street. He says he was drunk, on drugs, and out of his mind. He said he intended to rape her. What happened next was worse. Chris Tapp is released in 2017. After 2 decades in prison. Carol Dodge is there to welcome him. The woman who once wanted him dead now sees him as a second son. He's exonerated. He's awarded $11 million. But the years have taken their toll. Chris is trying to adjust to a world that moved on without him. And then in 2023, at a Halloween party in Las Vegas, it all unravels again. Chris allegedly offers cocaine to a young woman at the party. She tells her stepfather his name is Daniel Rodimer, a former congressman and a former WWE wrestler. Witnesses hear him threaten Chris. Moments later, 2 loud thuds. Chris is found unconscious, covered in bruises. He dies 5 days later. At first, it's ruled an accident, but the coroner changes it to homicide. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. Rodimer turns himself in. He hasn't gone to trial yet. 2 lives lost, 20 years apart. Angie Dodge, murdered at 18. Chris Tapp, wrongfully imprisoned, then killed after his release. The man who actually committed the crime lived across the street, and the justice system failed them both. No one really won. Not Angie, not Chris, not Carol. This is the story of how a small town's need for answers cost 2 people everything.